Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another special guest here. His name is Efe, and we go way back, like way back to Lagos campus of the Nigerian Law School. And I can't believe it's been 7 or 8 years now. And Efe is now a city lawyer. He works in Linklaters. So let me not let me not talk too much and let me allow him introduce himself. So Efe, please could you introduce yourself to us?
Hi Taylor, hi everyone. My name is Ifemena Iluja Badu. I mean, don't try to pronounce it, don't try to learn it. Just call me Ife. How do I introduce myself? Nigerian qualified. I've done this for quite some time now. Worked in Lagos for 4 years. Um, Before running off to Switzerland to do a master and end up here in London, working in links. I'm a lawyer. I do commercial disputes mostly, but I also do disputes more generally. Service big corporates, small corporates, and all sorts of corporates really. And that's really what I do. Born and raised in Nigeria. There's not too much to say really, but yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's fine. Fantastic. Okay, so could you talk us through the transition, right, from Nigeria to Switzerland and then from Switzerland to London? So how did you or why did you decide to apply to Switzerland as opposed to, some people go to other countries, but why Switzerland specifically, and how was the process like?
It's a good question actually. I think for me it was just a matter of it was just a matter of my focus just aligning. Um, Specifically since my uni undergrad, I had been very interested in arbitration. And in Nigeria, I had worked in commercial disputes, I'd worked in litigation and done some arbitration, but I was sure at that point in time that I wanted to do more arbitration. I mean, not least because of how the Nigerian court system is. So choosing Switzerland was a natural option because it's one of the leading jurisdictions for arbitration, and also because, more particularly, I had done some research on the schools, and the school that came out on top for arbitration was a school in Switzerland. So I really just went in a list of top schools and asked around, and I just applied to that particular school. So that was really the deciding factor. It was quite easy for me because it just tacked onto my experience and my, antecedents, everything I had done. So it was not to minimize the work. It was really just a matter of identifying what was next for me, what I needed to do, and just getting the information I required to make the jump. So that's how Switzerland happened. And I was in Geneva in particular, the best city in the world. I would always say this. And obviously, after doing the masters in Switzerland, the next thing was to try to see if I could put what I learned to practical use. And I got an internship in London at Links. And after doing 6 months of an internship, obviously, it just worked out, and they decided to keep me on board. So that's really the story and the process. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I like the fact that you knew what you wanted and you went for it. So, yes, so let's talk about your school in Switzerland, right? I'm sure the application process must have been daunting. So, for someone who wants to apply to the same school, what advice would you give them?
I think it applies. What I'm going to say applies generally across the board. But before I go into that, first thing is that I think that I had the focus by accident. Really, was just a long-standing interest. I think people can be more. You can be more deliberate than I was, definitely. So don't think that I had my life all figured out. I wanted to be a musician at some point. I wanted to be many things at some point. I was just lucky to have that focus. Anyway, but in terms of applying to schools, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned from applying and getting into this school was just how much attention you had to pay to what was required of you. And it's a life lesson, really. The applications are very clear. The admissions team spends a lot of time setting out their requirements, what they want from you, what they want you to say in your personal statement, what they want you to say everywhere else. And many times we just take a broad brush view about these things, but when you really like figure out what they're asking you, what's required of you, and you really put your mind to those things, you can get it done quite easily. And you can see by yourself your strengths, your weaknesses, and your prospects of being admitted. So I remember this was my second time applying to this school. The first time I applied to this school, the school I had in mind was Harvard Law School, like everybody else. And I had prepared my Harvard personal statement, and I just like copy pasted it into the application for this school, and 1 year after I realized that my essay was pretty much just not, tailored for that school at all, and that's why potentially they just basically sent me a rejection in the first year. But in the second year, I was already an arbitration practitioner in Nigeria. They asked me to talk about my interest in arbitration and my experience in arbitration and why I wanted to do arbitration long term. That was an easy question to answer. I mean, just focusing on it. So the point is, I think my big advice is you need to understand what is required of you, what the people you're speaking to want from you, what they would like to see, and just try as much as possible to tailor your application to it. I know it's difficult when you're doing several applications, but when you're doing several things at the same time, when you're really busy, but just put some thoughts into it. Make sure that you are answering the question as asked of you. You are doing what is required of you and know what you want to do. There's room for a fine balance, but prioritize, doing what's required of you. I think that's my big advice.
Okay. Thank you, Ife. So it's important to know what is required of you and then, tailor your application. Okay. Okay. So for someone who's thinking about whether or not there's funding, right? Because I'm sure it must have been so expensive. So do they offer any funding or scholarships?
So I'm going to do a bit of promo for the MIDS now. So the MIDS is a school I went to. It's a program I attended. It's the Masters in International Dispute Settlement in Geneva, Switzerland. It's the biggest, best program for arbitration across the world. All the people you read about in arbitration, doing awards and writing the biggest, articles and publications, they teach at that school. Um, and the application process is very simple. I remember that I think it was free. All you have to do is upload your certificate and do a personal statement explaining your interest in the career. And then I think upload your writing sample. European schools are very big on writing samples just so they can see how you write, how you think, in addition to knowing how you feel as a person, your personal statement. In terms of funding, I mean, it's a fairly generous program in the sense that they offer fully funded scholarships, I think about 5 or 6 of them, funded by law firms. And then there are private organizations in Geneva that would offer living expenses scholarships. So I was very fortunate to get a 75% tuition scholarship by a law firm here in London. And I was fortunate to get, in addition to that, a living expenses scholarship that was worth 15,000 francs. So I got paid, I think, 100,500 every month for 10 months. And that basically kept me going. But I think the key thing to say is that with funding, look at the institution itself, but also look outside because the external funders also provide funding. I'm aware that there were a few friends of mine in class who got external funding from elsewhere. But in terms of the MIDS itself, funding is something that's on the table. I know a friend who just got into the same program is Nigerian as well, and he's gotten a fully funded scholarship as well. So it's there is room for that. There's potential for that, and because it's a very diverse environment, it's Switzerland. People come from everywhere. They pay attention specifically to diversity and just making sure that people around the room are fully diverse and that people from diverse environments can get funding, can get representation in the classroom. So I think that's as far as the MIDS goes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ife, for that. And well done on being able to. Yeah, because I'm sure it wasn't easy. So, do you have maybe 3 tips for us for people who are looking to apply for those scholarships?
I would say be relentless. That's the first thing I would say because you just need to keep going. If you have your mind on target, just keep going. Just be relentless. Just keep going at it. The second thing I would say is that rather unfortunately, not many people succeed on the first attempt. But every time you, in quote, fail, it's a lesson. So you need to learn from. You need to go back and say to yourself, "What have I done? What could I have done differently?" And I think the final thing is just to believe in yourself and believe in God because I don't know if I've mentioned, but I'm Christian, and at every point in time, I say to myself that quite frankly, I couldn't have done anything. I couldn't have achieved anything without God, and I always must around with just 2 Bible verses. I think it's John 15:5 and Philippians 4:13. I always say that without God, I'm nothing, and with God, I can do everything. And that was a major part of how I navigated the entire process. But as far as practical steps could be relentless, ask questions, and as much as possible, learn from the process. Every process is a learning opportunity, and that's not something that you know you should miss. It's quite sad if you go through a process and not learn from it. So just as much as possible, be relentless. Make sure you learn from the process. Ask as many questions as possible, and I think you'll be fine. Believe in yourself. Believe in something bigger than yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ife. I love the fact that you mentioned how your faith played a major role in this as well. And, in your life's journey so far, because, I look at your journey and it's quite inspiring, I must say, even though we're friends, but you're doing amazing. Okay, so thank God. Your light is shining, and then like the Bible says, let your light shine before men so that they would see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And that is exactly what you are doing. So well done. Okay, so reflecting on your journey so far, what would you say are the three most important things that have helped you transition from having a career in Nigeria to now being in Linklaters? Like that is most people's dream job. So what would you say? What would you say? Okay, so let me make it more specific. So regarding the interview process, what are the three things that you can say made you stand out?
It's a very good question, and is one I'm very happy to answer. I think the first thing is that people underestimate what they've done in the past. It's something that people underestimate quite a lot, and you need to understand that what you've done in the past, and what you're doing now adds up. I had lots of experience in Nigeria, and I would never have known that, while I was doing all the things I was doing in Nigeria, that it would come to something in the future. But just being in the society, in the university, attending conferences somewhere, writing an article somewhere, being in a law firm that, I thought to myself, wasn't the biggest in Nigeria, but I was doing a lot of work. I was getting a lot of experience. My friends were behind desks drafting preliminary objections. I was in courts arguing preliminary objections. Those things count for something. And it's not just your legal experience. You might have done volunteer work somewhere, but those things, they have meaning to a recruiter, to somebody who's trying to get you on board. You might have organized a small project in your community. That shows that you're good with organizing projects. That's something that matters to, somebody who's trying to recruit you. So don't underestimate the value of what you've done in the past. And that's why I did not do. In my case in particular, I had bags of experience in terms of, court work, arbitration work. And even though I thought it was little, because in a Nigerian context, doing 4 arbitrations is not a lot, because we do like 30 cases ongoing at the same time. It meant a lot to these people, And I think just my previous experience, volunteer experience, my master's, everything just added up to say this guy is somebody who we can consider. And I think that's where you want to get to. Can they consider me? I think the second thing that stood out for me really is, and I'm just very grateful to God, my parents and my friends for this, is that for some reason, people tend to think that I'm a friendly person and that I will fit into an environment because I'm good with people. And I think it's something that more firms, more employers are looking out for. Nobody wants an absolute genius who will not relate with other people on the team. But if you can get on a phone call with your recruiters or your interviewers and you are able to connect with them, have a conversation with them, have a few laughs with them, have chats with them about random stuff, related to your interview, of course, it does leave an impression. And if you've ever had the opportunity to interview people, you would see that that's a big difference. Because imagine getting on a phone call where this guy answers all your questions brilliantly, but he's stone cold. And the next guy comes, answers 9 out of 10 questions brilliantly, but he's just like so friendly, so nice, so funny, so chummy. You already feel like you want to work with that person. And that's something that employers look out for, that people underestimate. So just be yourself, be friendly, let your personality shine through, as far as you're not, you're not going to be rude or, impolite. And I think the third thing really is, what will be the third thing now? I'm trying not to demote the important points. I think the third thing I would flag would just be adaptability. You have to recognize, and that also encompasses humility. You have to recognize that you're in a new environment. You're going into this interview and you don't know everything. The things you know are helpful, but you don't know everything because you're not in this environment. For you need to know what you need to know. My first interview, they asked me to talk about a legal. It was all fun and nice, but they asked me to talk about a legal issue that I found interesting in the past. And I talked about a Nigerian legal issue. It was one of the cases where I got the consent of the Attorney General, where I got a garnishee against the CBN without the consent of the Attorney General. And that's something that in Nigerian law would be like, oh my God, how'd you do that? But these guys didn't even understand what I was talking about, you know. They asked me a question. I had lots of answers to give, but I gave the one I liked the best because that was my personal career win. That's a legendary move for me as a Nigerian lawyer. But that's not what they wanted to hear. And even though they could understand what I said to them, they were just like, oh yeah, well that's just like implied consent or waiver. I was just like, oh my God, why did you minimize what I said like that, you know? But in my next interviews, I had to plug into what was required of me, my arbitration experience, something they could relate to. You're presenting to an audience, you're showing them who you are and what you know. If you want to, you know, explain to a person who's colorblind what the color purple looks like, you can't point them to the color purple and say that's color purple. You have to explain what it looks like, you know, with what they can relate to. So in my subsequent interview, I decided to just basically tack onto the requirements of the market, and it kind of just worked out well for me. I had even my Nigerian experiences that were arbitration related were better suited to the answer. And I just had to look back and say, well, I've done a master's now. I worked in Nigeria for 4 years now. I have enough to pull out from. I'm going to pull out things that, you know, are better suited for this market. So I think that's the third thing, adaptability, really. Just understanding what's required of you in that process and just, you know, putting your best foot forward, not your favorite foot forward, essentially.
Thanks, Efe. I love the last thing you said. Put your best foot forward, not your favorite foot forward, because they might not be able to relate to, your favorite foot forward. Okay. 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 Thank you so much for that. Okay. So, reflecting on your journey so far, your career journey so far, are there any things that you think you might have done differently?
Yes, you know, on the Nigerian side of things, you know, I know people don't like to hear this because in Nigeria the ball game is completely different in the sense of you're trying to earn enough money, you're trying to do enough, you're trying to make sure that you're not on the street struggling, you're not relying on family too much, and money is a big factor. So you all want to work in big law and do big things. But something I would have loved to do really is to have um, a more step-by-step career in the sense of starting really small, then, you know, going medium, then going big, then going really big, you know, and then, you know, doing the same thing, you know, even when I moved. Because like in Nigeria, I would call it mid-tier, tier 2, that's what we call it basically. And even though I fit in quite well, I feel like I'd have gained more starting smaller, but I've earned probably peanuts, 10,000 naira per month, you know, just having to do more. And then I think that at some point I could have actually moved up higher just because, you know, at some point the experience has to get better the higher you go. The thing with small firms is that they give you lots of hands-on experience. The thing with medium-sized firms, they give you hands-on experience and then they give you learn opportunities. But the thing with big firms is that they give you an exposure that a smaller firm cannot give you. And that's something I think I would have loved to do differently in Nigeria. And this is not, you know, to say that I didn't have a fantastic time, I didn't get exposure, but what I would do on a monthly basis, we probably do on a daily basis in a much bigger firm. And the same thing with my London experience as well. I have been very fortunate. I mean, I'm not even complaining. I did a 6-month internship and I got an associate position, but people typically do internships for 6, 12 months, 24 months before they get in. The advantage of that is that you get to acclimatize in a drawn out process. But when you are successful and you get thrown in, you have to acclimatize much quicker. So generally what I'll just say is that because I now understand the value of experiences adding up, maybe this is not ideal, but advice to what I'd have done differently if I knew I was going to end up here eventually was just to take a more staggered approach, a more deliberate approach to learning through the process. And maybe I didn't need to change anything. Maybe I just needed to focus more on what I was going through and learn a bit more. But the entire point here is to not go through the process without learning from the process. I think that's the key point. So learning from the process, identifying what needs to be done better, what can be done differently, what you can improve, and just taking it step by step and not letting yourself go through the process without the process going through you, if that makes any sense. But yeah.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so just out of interest, do you think you would ever, well, never say never, but do you see yourself moving back to Nigeria to practice in the near future?
Yeah, it's a good question. And for the sake of my Linklaters partners who might be watching this, I don't intend to leave you anytime soon. I love you guys. You guys are the absolute best team, and I could not have, I could not have chosen a better firm to join. But home is always home. And maybe one day Links is thinking of opening a Lagos office, something like that, having an African presence, and I would love to head that. But I do think that Nigeria is a growing country with lots of opportunities. Um, and I think there's opportunities that people don't see. And I would never say never, honestly. I'll never say never. Never ever say never. But it's not in my immediate plan right now. Yeah.
Okay.
I might
Okay.
retire and become a judge in Nigeria or something like that when I have a lot of money and just have fun talking to lawyers across, the bench. But I maybe teach or something like that. But at the moment, I'm not thinking about it.
Oh yeah, that's true. You taught at the Nigerian law school.
I
Brand law school.
Yes,
did.
yeah. So tell us about your experience there. Maybe in like a minute or two.
I should have mentioned this in my introduction, but Nigerian law school was absolutely fantastic. I had 1,300 students in one class who I absolutely loved and adored, every single one of them. Some more than others, unfortunately. But when I see them outside, I give them big hugs. It was fun interacting with that class. Many of them are still my friends till today. It was fun teaching people. And I always felt like I was pouring myself into the job because I remember I would get back home so drained, so tired, even though I had to go to work the next day in my law firm. But it was a fascinating experience. I learned so much from just being around people and learning from people. They loved me as much as I loved them. So it was truly a happy time in my life. Maybe that's why I'm talking about going back to teaching. I really enjoyed it. I really, really loved it. I really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. I can't overstate that.
Yeah, I mean, I heard you were a fantastic teacher. So maybe when you retire, you can go back
Hope
to,
I'm still as fun
yeah,
when that happens.
I'm sure. I'm sure you'll still be. I'm sure. Okay, so just out of interest, did your job come with sponsorship? Because I know that this is another pain point of so many people. Could you talk us through the sponsorship bit?
I have been very blessed to be honest. And it did come with sponsorship. I wouldn't be in this country if not for links. So yeah.
Okay, so is there anything extra that you did to get the sponsorship, or yeah, how did it work?
Not at all to be honest. It was just a matter of they wanted to hire me, and I don't even think the firm even like I don't think I don't think the partners who hired me even have this in mind, but yeah. It just happened automatically. I think what happens is that there's certain employers, and maybe I'm being wrong, but there's certain employers who this happens automatically for. They have the budget, they have the quota of people who come as immigrants, and they just do it. I think that's what happened for me really. I know it's more difficult, mid-level jobs, smaller jobs, but this just happened really. It wasn't a problem at all.
I'm sure they were like, "Oh, this guy is phenomenal. We must sponsor him, even if you have to borrow money. We have to sponsor him." Yes, because he's amazing. Okay, so can you share any challenges that you've encountered so far in your career journey?
Um, on the personal side of things, there will always be room for doubts. You would always doubt yourself from time to time. But two things, don't forget that one, you haven't gotten this far by being the person you think you are when you doubt yourself. Two, God did not bring you this far to abandon you. He has put you in a position where you can deal with everything that comes at you. So on the personal side, that's it. Doubt is definitely a thing, and you will obviously deal with doubt. Um, I remember telling a friend I had imposter syndrome once. She was like, "You imposter syndrome? I mean, we all do. It comes with the package. It comes with the OS. um, then the second thing is really adapting. Adapting. Don't you adapt to new environments? And this is even not even like the work environment. You're needing to adapt to new environments can come with its own challenges. I mean, the sun going down at 4 p.m. in the winter, you know, you don't know how much it affects your mood. Even from a health perspective, you don't have as much vitamin D anymore. It affects your body. there's just a lot that you need to, like, adapt to in terms of adapting more generally. And of course, the work environment. It's a different culture, different people. In Nigeria, people are so charming, so friendly, so nice. I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Here, it's slightly different. Not because, there's ill intent, but just because, the culture is different, the people are different. I remember the famous one, I'm sure people have experienced as well, when I would say, sorry about that, when somebody, like, hits their foot against, like, a stone or something, and they'll be like, "Why are you saying sorry? It's not your fault." And I'm like, "I'm Nigerian, we
Yeah,
say
one
sorry."
thing, sorry.
I'm Nigerian, we say sorry to empathize with you. I just, like, it's just, I'm empathizing with you, and these are the things that, you sort of, like, and this is just an example, things that you have to sort of, like, adapt to, adjust, don't take offense. You are the immigrant, you are the new person in a new environment. You have no right to be entitled. You have a right to look around you and say to yourself, well, I'm going to adjust this environment. I'm going to influence this environment, but I'm going to adjust to this environment. You cannot influence an environment if you don't adjust to it. And that's something you need to bear in mind, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That ties into the next question, the next and final question, which is talk us through any culture shock that you've yes that you've encountered so far.
Yeah. I didn't want this to be the last question. I miss talking to you, and this has been so much fun. But in terms of culture shocks, I think I was lucky to get a buffer because I spent some time in Switzerland. People are different, but you still experience culture shocks as well. And I remember one of my first experiences in an elevator. I said to the person beside me, "Oh, good morning," and got cold silence. Um, and it was just like, I just greeted this person. This person didn't answer me. And what I did was to go get headphones. I got the Sony X5. So I put it in my ears when I get in elevators now, everywhere I go to, just so nobody takes offense. I do a head nod, but that's as far as I go. Um, but again, it's just the culture is different and you definitely experience shock. So on my end, it was just, Nigerians are so charming. Nigerians are always in your business. And it was just how not in your business everybody is, and not in people's business you're not supposed to be. The things we consider minimal, like just saying good morning, saying hi. It's like, who the hell are you? Why are you why are you saying that to me? Was a thing. What else? Positive culture shocks, not being stuck in traffic and being able to say I'll leave my house 11:30, get there for 12:30. That's something I absolutely loved. Um, what else? It's quite unfortunate because I think I'm a very adaptable person. So I don't think I have too much to say, but I would just generally flag that cultures are different and it's your responsibility to adapt and be open minded. That's what I'll say, basically.
Okay, so what of the small talk, or did you like small talk?
Oh, I'm a chatty person now, so I can deal with that. But sometimes you're like, oh my god, and we
It's
actually
okay.
actually talking about this. but I absolutely love people, and I think that's one thing that's helped me. If you want to tell me about your babies, I'm happy to hear about your babies. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh my god, we probably won't say this to each other in Nigeria if I don't know you that much, but let's do this. Or talking about a game, I'm like, okay, well, let's do this. But just that openness, and I think it just comes. And I don't take credit for this. It's just product of my environment, my background. It's just God, how God made me. I'm just generally open to people, and I've been able to, because of that, adjust fairly easily. I think, or easier than most people, to things like small talk, drinks, coffee, the endless coffees, the endless drinks, and things like that. I have missed a couple drinks, to be honest, God, but I try very, very hard, and I speak up. I speak up a lot, so that helps me because I know many people have had difficulties with, being told they don't speak up enough. But for my first meeting at the firm at Linklaters, I was very vocal about my opinions, as far as I thought they were careful and correct, or at least tenable. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Ife. This has been so interesting, and and insightful as well. Okay, so do you have? Sorry.
Said I'm glad it's been
Yes, yes. I know you're so busy, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that you've taken out time to speak to me today and to the audience. Okay, so do you have any final words for us?
um I'm just going to plagiarize my own material. It's something I've been saying for many years. I would just say, you can achieve anything you want to achieve in life. And this is never me being an aspire person, but you can really do anything you want to do in life. And I hope this encourages somebody. All you need to do really do is just focus, have a goal, focus on it, believe in yourself, and like be determined. And when I say believe in yourself, it's not just believe in yourself, but believe in yourself and believe in something greater. In my case, it was God. It was my faith. And I don't know what you believe in, but like it's very important to believe in something more than yourself because you would doubt yourself. But set your goals, stay focused, be relentless, stay determined, and just like believe in yourself. I think that's it for me. And don't ever look down yourself. You're God's perfect creation. You're an amazing, excellent person, and I think you do excellently well. I have no doubt. If you're already watching this video, you're in the right place because you're looking for self-development. So I mean, it tells me you're amazing. So yeah. And if you stay through 30 minutes of me, then you're even better because I don't think I'm that fun anymore. but yeah. But yeah. So thanks, Tele, for having me over. I'll always do this for you. Anything for you, anything for,
Oh, thank you.
anything for
Thank
you
you.
anytime. So yeah.
You're still so sweet.
I try my best.
Yeah.
I try my
All right, then. Thank you so much for watching. And please, you can follow him on LinkedIn, right? I'll link your LinkedIn profile in the description box below. And yes, I'm sure he's touched on most of the pain points that people have. But if you have any further questions, feel free to send him a message.
send me a
Please,
DM.
yes,
I'll
send him a
answer.
DM. And of course, like he's a lovely guy. So he will respond. All right, then. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.